Oklahoma baseball was able to pull off a very good top 25, not really an upset, but a good top 25 series, win the series against Ole Miss at home at L. Dale Mitchell Park. It was a great weekend for baseball. We'll talk about that as well as the postseason aspirations for this Oklahoma baseball team and what they could be looking forward to, what the standings are right now in the SEC, what this weekend did for the Oklahoma Sooners, and we'll also talk about Oklahoma softball. We'll get back to talking a little bit of softball because OU softball is making us proud in the SEC. They're ranked as the number 1 seed in the SEC. Big news there, so we're going to talk about it all here on the Sooner Spotlight. Sooner Nation, welcome into another episode of Sooner Spotlight, your all-access pass for all things Oklahoma Sooners athletics. I want to welcome everybody in. This is a live show, so make sure to comment down below. Let me know, fill in the blank of what your questions about this team, about Sooners athletics, anything, we'll touch on it tonight. This is a live show, so it's a little bit less structured, more or less open, so that way I can keep an eye over on the right-hand side of my screen. I did see that we were having issues going live on X. Not really sure what that's about. Probably something in my program. But anyways, we are live on YouTube, so make sure to share that out. I can't really get on social media right now and share that out since I'm busy. So if you would, share that out for other fans to know. Share this episode with a Sooner fan that you know, or a friend, family, somebody who you want to get into Sooners baseball. That's a great way to do it. Just share the show. And of course, you can always follow us on social media, the show on social media, on Instagram at Sooner Spotlight. You can follow me personally on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Real Josh Mahler. It's the best way to keep up with the show and so much more. I try to keep you guys updated as much as I can with everything that's going on. So go follow on social media and check us out over there. You can go to shop.soonerspotlight.com if you'd like to check out the merch store to help support this show a little bit further. Otherwise, the best way to do it is just hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And again, comment down below, especially if you're watching live. Jump over into that live chat, and I will try to get to all the live chat that I possibly can. But let's go ahead and dive into it because Oklahoma had a big and a very fun weekend in college baseball. I almost said softball. We're not getting to softball quite yet. But baseball, it was a great weekend. First of all, just starting off, it's been absolutely amazing weather. It was like 70s, 60s, high 60s, low 70s all weekend long. The sun was out. And it felt refreshing. That was like the first weekend in a long time that there hasn't been any rain. There hasn't been any, high winds. There's no clouds. It was a great weekend. So it truly was very fun to be able to go out to the ballpark, and be able to just enjoy the great weather. It was truly a blessing. And so, definitely something that, we take for granted at times, but this weekend definitely brought that out. I guess I did forget to mention, apologize for that, but I do have to throw in there that Sooner Spotlight is a member of the OU Insider content lineup, so please go over to ouinsider.com today. They give me a platform to be able to cover baseball specifically right now, and I'm sure I'll do more in the future, and so I do want to give them a shout out. It really is an amazing thing, and I think the deal just went up. So if you didn't get a chance to hop on the deal where you could pay for 1 month and get 4 months for free, 4 months for the price of one, you missed out on a great deal because OU Insider really is a great place to go and get, become a member of an Oklahoma sports community, let your voice be heard, and so much more. There's just so much to it. And I try to explain that to people, but the best way to do it is just to go get signed up. Try it out for 1 month at a time real quick just to see if you like it. And if you don't, then you can get rid of it then. But give it a chance because I really think it's amazing. I was on board with people that did not like OU Insider and any of the insider, it sounds weird, but it's much more than that. And, for example, I'm not an insider, but I contribute over there. I try to give, all kinds of updates, especially for baseball right now. But go get signed up at ouinsider.com today. Check it out, and you can thank me later if you'd like. Otherwise, like I said, if you don't like it, then whatever. It's not for everybody. But let's go on to Oklahoma baseball. Really was a great weekend for them. And I talked about this matchup going into this weekend. I felt like this was one that overall Oklahoma wanted to take this series. A sweep would have been amazing, but you just wanted Oklahoma to be able to take the series. Win 2, get out of there alive, and you're looking really good. Winning the series would have been really big for Oklahoma, and we'll talk about the SEC standings here in just a moment. But looking at it, a sweep would have been huge because it would have put Oklahoma tied for 5th. Now they're tied for 7th, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But it would have been very big for Oklahoma being 5th in the conference. Yeah, that's a big one. In this conference, that's huge. And I know Sooner fans, just kind of in general, the fans are not really happy with being ranked in the 7th, and kind of, it looks, if you were just to blindly look at the rankings, it looks like Oklahoma's in the bottom half of the SEC. That's not true. Oklahoma's still really in the top half of the SEC and one way away from being in the upper third of the SEC. I mean, this really is a very tight conference race right there, in that 1 and 2 is pretty much locked up right now. And we'll talk about that in a moment. I know I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but winning against Ole Miss, it was a good boost for Oklahoma. It put them out there. Winning game 1 and game 2, the way that Oklahoma won this series was very big for them. First, starting off with game 1, which, man, I mean, it was tight all the way through, all the way down to the 9th inning. It didn't feel it. You felt the confidence coming from Oklahoma that, hey, they were probably going to pull this one out, but it never felt like, man, that they're pulling away. They've got this one locked up. Never felt like that. It felt neck and neck the entire time. It always felt like Ole Miss was still in this game, and kudos to them because they had an amazing game plan overall in terms of pitching. Their pitching staff did an amazing job. Just put the ball on the mark. Don't worry about. Skip Johnson talks a lot about this, about how oftentimes when pitchers fail, they're trying to get the punch out rather than just trying to hit the mark. If you need to hit a certain zone, just hit that zone, and you can't help it if the batter hits it. You really can't. As much as fans are going to get ticked off at you, as much as fans want you to get the strikeouts, and the fans don't want you to allow hits, all you can do as a pitcher is just hit your mark. Find where you're aiming for and hit it. That's all you can do. And Skip Johnson talks a lot about that. I think Kyson Witherspoon did an amazing job about this for however many innings he pitched for. I'll pull that up, make sure that I've got that in front of me. So yeah, he pitched for 7 innings. I thought it was 7. I couldn't remember if it was 7 or just 6. But he hit the zone. He hit his mark and did what he had to do. And when you saw him trying to get punch outs, that was whenever he kind of got himself in a little bit of a bind, hitting a couple of guys in a row. Ended up bouncing back from that, closing out the inning, getting himself out of a pinch. He had 8 strikeouts on that game. Kyson Witherspoon did. Only walked 3 guys and allowed 1 hit all game long. Great game for him. It really was. And, it was one of those outings that shows you why he's in the top for, the MLB draft. This is one of those outings that shows you why Kyson Witherspoon is as great as he is and is talked about as much as he is talked about. So this was absolutely the type of showing that you need from him. And then Dylan Crooks, of course, coming in and closing it out. Jason Bowden also, I have to give him a shout out because he played in game 1 and game 2 and pitched really well. I think he was doing what he had to do as a pitcher. And again, that's find the zone and hit it. And he was doing a really good job of that. I have to give him a bit of a shout out because I think Jason Bowden has really been coming around, where he went through a little bit of a slump and has shaken that off. Jumping forward to game 2, we'll talk about Cade Crossland real quick in game 2, showing that he also was able to shake off a poor performance last week, bounced back a little bit last week, and really bounced back in this one. But we'll talk a little bit more about his performance when we get there. This one, I want to take a quick look at the 5th inning for Oklahoma. So I don't know if Skip understood. I didn't really ask it very well, but he was talking about the 5th inning post-game, and he mentioned that how great it was that we were able to get that bunt, and I believe it was Drew Dickerson. It gets a great bunt and it scores. It ends up being the one to score 2 runs in that inning. Really, when you take a look at that, without that bunt, that was not going to be a two-run inning. Just a bunt to perfection. What I was getting at with Skip was that the game plan, just to send 3 guys, and I forget who it was. I know it was Kyle Branch. I'm trying to remember what the lineup was that night. I've got it in front of me, so how about I just look at it? Let's see. You had Kyle Branch, Mason Hamlin, and then they both got on base, got walked. I know that wasn't the game plan. Skip was kind of jokingly saying, "Oh yeah, that was the game plan. Just walk two guys." And I don't know if he just didn't understand what I was asking, or if he was just kind of throwing out a joke there. But then he went on to say, "Yeah, I mean, it was just everything went as well as you could have asked for it to have gone. It was kind of a little bit of luck, a little bit of just patient batting. But it was you saw all three batters with Kyle Branch, Mason Hamlin, and then Drew Dickerson all showed bunt. Drew Dickerson's the one that got the bunt, but they all showed it. And so it was obviously something that it was. I know it was a great game plan, but the execution was beautiful, because to know when to pull that bat back and make sure you get that ball so you're not holding it out there and get called strike. Don't let don't hit the ball if you're not going to be able to get good, clean contact and do something with it. And both Kyle Branch and Mason Hamlin did just that. Drew Dickerson gets it. And what was most beautiful about that play was that you had players all kind of cheat up, knowing that he's going to throw the bunt down. You just had two guys in a row do it. Now he's trying to show it. He's going to throw the bunt down. And they cheated up, specifically the first baseman. And I believe the second baseman kind of cheated over into his spot a little bit. You had third baseman pretty much left alone. He was kind of cheating up as well. Not as much as first baseman, but he can't, they were all ready for that. Even the catcher knows what's happening. The pitcher is ready for it. And they all knew what was coming. And Drew Dickerson just put it in the exact spot. I mean, it was a little bit of luck, but also, I mean, a lot of that goes into skill, knowing how to bunt. That was a huge play. And so, one that really kind of won that series ultimately. So a great game there, a great game plan, but perfect execution. Because then even after that, I'm trying to think of what happened after that. With I know there was a fielder's choice, got Kyle Branch in, I believe, and then a single ends up getting another in. So I mean, it was just great perfection to game plan. It was sticking to that plan of just knowing your role and doing it. Don't try to go above and beyond. It's easy to step up to bat and try to swing for the fences every time. And if you're a golfer, you can probably empathize with that notion. I will sit there on my golf swing knowing that I am not going to hit a good shot if I try to swing as hard as I can. I know I'm not going to hit a good shot. What I need to do is just have a nice, smooth. It doesn't have to be super hard, because it's gonna fly. Let the club do the work and just hit the ball nice and easy and let it do its work. I know what's going to work, but instead I step up and I'll have my nice, smooth practice swings. But then as soon as I go up to hit that ball, I'm trying to kill it every time. That it's easy to catch yourself doing that, and it's even harder to step back and just do what you have to do. Get on base and do what you can there, and that's exactly what Kyle Branch, Mason Hamlin did. Mason Hamlin too, being able to step in with the injury that kind of went on, and I might have reported that wrong. I don't remember exactly what I put out there on on social media, kind of reporting that. But yeah, I know Sam Christensen a little bit banged up. I believe his shoulder. And Scott Mudler, I believe his shoulder was irritated in game one, which kind of caused a switch up where Mason Hamlin comes in. Christian Hoffman got his first start in game two. Seeing that, I mean, that was great for him. Being able to see him get in there for his first career start, that was a lot of fun. Anyways, moving on to game two. Game one was just sticking to your game plan, knowing what you have to do to win. And the Sooners did just that. Game two, this is one where it just felt like Oklahoma had it under wraps the entire time. Cade Crossland lets up, I believe, a home run in that game in inning two, but doesn't let that shake him up. He had a great game overall. Really did a great job. He ended up pitching for 6 innings, allowed only 5 hits. He did allow, I guess, 2 of the runs, because I believe there was a homer in there. So Austin Foley hit a homer, and then Ian Humphrey ended up hitting an RBI single to score Reuter. So yeah, those were the 2 runs against Cade Crossland. But overall, so there was one pitch in particular that I know we talked about up in the booth that he pitched it, and it rang in at 97.8. That is like a couple miles an hour faster than anything he's thrown all season. And I know I think Josh Calloway mentioned something to Skip after the game. Man, what was it like to see that? And Skip was shocked. Like, did he really throw around 97, 98? Yeah, he was right up there. And there was several, even first three innings, he was pitching in that 96 to 97 range on his fastballs. I mean, the dude Cade looked like he was angry when he was pitching, and wanting some revenge, and just not revenge necessarily on Ole Miss the way the Oklahoma fans wanted it, but he looked like he was angry for the performance that he put up last week, I suppose. And I don't think that really lingers with these guys. I think they're professional enough not to let that linger, but to recognize I need to do better, do my job, and do what I got to do. Put it on the spot and zing it past those guys. And that's what he was doing. He was pitching very well. So 6 innings, only allowed 5 hits, 1 walk, and 8 strikeouts for him. And the 2 runs against him, one of them was just because he walked, I believe it was Ian Humphrey in the 7th inning, I think it was. So, yeah, Cade Crossland, great game there for him. And, it was fun to be able to watch him go out there and perform well yet again. And then, of course, Easton Carmichael, his second career multi-homer game. It was let's see, I can't remember. I think it was the first one. The first one was a 2-run home run in the first inning, I believe. His first at-bat, he gets up there, bombs that thing, and as soon as it comes off his bat, so if you remember a few weeks ago, can't remember which series, it might have been the Vanderbilt series, maybe LSU, but I think it was the Vanderbilt series. Anyways, Trey Gamble smashes a homer and just stops. He knew it was going out and just stops and stares up. The picture is iconic. It's going to go down as one of the greatest. Shout out to the OU baseball media team for getting that one, because that was a really good picture. And he's just standing there staring at that ball as it goes out, admiring your work. And on that Easton Carmichael home run, Easton didn't do that. Easton hit it, took off running. Not quite as aggressive as he would have if it didn't feel like it was a homer. But he took off running. Let's get around these bases. But Trey Gamble, it made me kind of chuckle because Trey Gamble saw him hit that and stopped and did the same thing watching Easton Carmichael's ball go out there. And Trey just watched it fly out to left field, just way out of here. There was no chance of that thing staying in the ballpark. You can move on. But instead he stopped, admired the work of his teammate. So Easton Carmichael, 2 homers. Let's see, he had 1 in that 2-run home run. And then he hit another one in the 5th. I believe that was his 3rd at bat. He had a really good outing. The entire weekend was good for him, because then he turned around, almost had 2 RBIs right off the bat in Game 3. But for sure, his first one was an RBI, his first hit, a nice single. But anyways, in that Game 3, he went almost perfect game, 4 for 5. He had 2 runs on the game. Easton Carmichael did with 3 RBIs. Amazing performance from him, and he really showed out. I was happy that we were able to kind of let him speak on it after the game, because that was fun to be able to hear him. The whole team seemed extremely happy but not content. Extremely happy with the win in Game 1 and Game 2. Game 3 they still weren't really upset because they knew what that Game 3 was. You just didn't have things go your way. It was your fault. They were upset, but I don't think it was the same as maybe the LSU game where, man, we played good, but just barely not good enough. I'm trying to think of another series that kind of felt that way. There's certain times when this team loses that you can see it in their morale. This one in Game 3, it was that sucks, but let's move on. We've got a mission to do, a mission to complete. And they're not done yet. They've got a fun one coming up next weekend in Kentucky, down in Lexington. That's gonna be a good one. But anyways, Game 3, it really was. I mean, a couple of errors, and I don't know if it was fatigue. I don't know if it was just losing sight, losing track of where you're at. Ultimately, it just came down to not being in the right place at the right time, not focusing all the way through to the completion. I know there was the one error where Mason Hamlin just let one go through his glove. Should have been a catch. Just couldn't quite hang on to it. There was one where Kyle Branch scoops it, just didn't get it. It doesn't mean that those players. We've talked with Skip in the past about that after games. It's not that these players shouldn't be in that position at that time. It's just that they had a bad play, and sometimes those accumulate over one single game. And I'm not sure what goes into that? Again, I don't know if that was fatigue or what that was. The players would be able to answer better than I could. But ultimately, you can't be too upset with that loss. You have to recognize that the main goal, I think, from a fan's perspective, the team wanted to sweep, obviously. From a fan's perspective, the main goal was to go in there and win that series, and that's exactly what Oklahoma did. You have a sweepable series coming up against Kentucky, although I will say Kentucky just got swept this past weekend, so that is either a good sign that, hey, you can go in there and sweep a team that's down, or it's, watch out, they're ticked off, and they're ready for some vengeance. What was kind of disappointing, in Game 3, Malachi Witherspoon goes out there and has another pretty good. Yeah, I know Skip kind of mentioned during the broadcast he didn't feel like it was his best outing. He didn't feel like he did as good even in the loss against Georgia, and I think he's right. I wouldn't question him on that, but he still had a pretty good game. Malachi Witherspoon did, but the defense just didn't support him at certain times. So you see that ERA go up, and it's not indicative of how good of a pitcher he is, and that's a bummer. That's one thing I thought with Malachi Witherspoon, 7 innings pitched, 4.2 innings pitched, 7 hits. He did allow 5 of those runs on his own. 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. That's what was crazy. He is going to get credit. It's going to be docked against him for those 5 runs, and I get it. That's the way that this game goes. But sometimes that's what is unfair about being a pitcher. Similar to what's unfair about being a quarterback in football or a point guard in basketball is sometimes you get the blame for things. Point guard might not be as good of a comparison, but as a quarterback in football, you get blamed for things. Your completion percentage went down and people are going to rag on you for it, even though, or you get an interception when it bounces off your receiver's hands and he should have caught it. So you're going to get blamed for some of those things with people that look at stats and don't pay attention to the game. So ultimately, I think Malachi had a pretty good game. What really was fun for me was in the in the last inning, 9th inning. I don't care so much about the outcome. What I care about was in that 9th inning. I believe it was Reed Hensley, Jaden Barfield, and Jackson Kircher. All 3 of them pitched in that inning. All 3 of them had a strikeout, no hits allowed. That was a very fun inning, and it was an inning that says a lot about those guys, and especially looking at each one of those guys and seeing where they're at. So, with Reed, I know he's a senior. Not really sure. I'd have to look into it for him. I'm not really sure what eligibility looks like for him or anything like that. But for Jaden Barfield, and I believe Jackson Kircher as well. Let me check on this real quick. Both of them are freshmen. That says a lot about these young guys that know that this game is over. I think fans knew it, Skip knew it, players knew it, but you don't give up. You don't throw in the towel. You still go out there and you put in your best effort. And that's exactly what these 3 guys did. Specifically, these 2 freshmen that go out there and they strike out the side. That was really fun for me, even though the loss hurts as an Oklahoma fan. But it was still fun to me to be able to see those 3 guys go out there, 3 pitchers in 1 inning, and all 3 delivered a strikeout to retire the side. That was awesome to me to close out the game, especially since it went down the way that it did. To close out that game that way, I thought that was something truly special. So take that for what it's worth. Going over to the SEC standings, Texas got swept this weekend. If you're an Oklahoma fan, you would be happy to hear that, just to be proud of what could have happened. So the big thing with that is Arkansas kind of has to close out their season dang near perfect, very near, like sweep the next 2 series. And I'm not sure what they have coming up. I'm not going to pull up their schedule. I don't care that much about it. But Arkansas pretty much has to close out the rest of their season almost perfect in conference play. They might have some playroom for a 1 loss. I'd really have to look a little deeper into it. But with Arkansas sweeping Texas, and I don't want to hear from Texas fans that the officiating was bad. I don't want to hear from the umpire. Umps suck. They don't know the strike zones. It's inconsistent. I don't want to hear from Tennessee. I'm hearing it from Tennessee fans too. I'm sorry, guys. That is in the SEC. That happens both sides of the plate. So I don't have much sympathy for a team that complains that that's why they lost. I will hear you out when you lose by 1 or 2 runs. That, hey, this one call, sometimes that can happen. And I'll hear you out in certain circumstances. In Texas and Tennessee circumstances, just not the case. Sorry, it's just not the case. A win in Game 3 for Oklahoma would have put Oklahoma tied for 5th. Instead, they're tied for 7th, and they're tied with Auburn and Ole Miss. The company that Oklahoma's in is a very good place to be. They would have a first-round bye if the bracket were to be drawn up today for the SEC championship. Oklahoma would have a bye in the first round, so it would be Ole Miss against Missouri. Give me whoever. See, this is what's silly. Missouri is completely defeated without a single win in SEC play this year. Absolutely no wins in the SEC. Let me see. They are 0-24 in the SEC, 13-34 overall. At least South Carolina has 5 wins in the SEC. We've got to do something about letting everybody in. The bottom 2 teams, South Carolina, Missouri, I just can't make an argument for them. I can make an argument for Texas A&M, Mississippi State, Kentucky, all of them sitting at 10-14. I can make an argument for them, or even Florida at 11-13 in the conference. I can make an argument for any of those teams, possibly. South Carolina, I have a hard time. Missouri, yeah, that's impossible. You just can't do it. But as it would stand today, the way that this would look, and you can go over to X. Micah Butel actually put this out there. Props to him. He does some really good work. I really haven't heard much about him before until a couple weekends ago. So I'm really glad that I found him. He's a good follow if you like college baseball. Anyways, he put it out there and showed what it would look like. So Missouri, Ole Miss, the winner of them would face Oklahoma. You got to feel good about that, considering we swept Missouri with no problem. So if they were to somehow squeeze out one win, good luck. I'm not worried there. Ole Miss, I'd be a little bit more worried about that one, but you just beat them in a 3-game series. So why not? Why can't you go in there? If you're to win that one, you'd go forward against Tennessee. That's a tough one. Talking about the gauntlet that any team has to go through, even going against Missouri, let's be honest, it's not easy to win against Missouri. Georgia learned that this past weekend. It's not always easy to win against Missouri, and especially when it's into a bracket system where you have to win however many games in a row. So I'll throw them. Missouri's probably the only one. I really probably shouldn't say that. That was a stupid take. Go ahead and clip that. But you go down to the bottom. South Carolina, for example, it's not an easy one to win. South Carolina is a decent team. They're not good, but they're decent. They're not easy to beat. And I mean, that's like one of the worst in the competition in the field. Worst competition in the field would be South Carolina. That's the worst we're talking about. That they wouldn't do too bad in another conference, I don't think. That's why I'm saying I don't think they're terrible. I don't think they're bad. They're just not good. But then you talk about teams like Florida and A&M, or even Mississippi State and Kentucky. I mean, these are all teams that are incredible. You look at the teams that would get one bye, would be Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, Auburn, and Tennessee. Sorry, not Tennessee, Texas. I feel like that should not be right. I'll have to look into that one. He has Texas down, and I might have it mixed up too. I don't know, but yeah, I think that would be Tennessee and then Texas. It's just he has hats that are confusing me here on this graphic, so that's on me. But yeah, so Oklahoma that would then go against Texas, I think, is how this is drawn up. We'll see how Oklahoma does against Texas in a couple of weeks. But ultimately, yeah, what I'm trying to say is that this race is very difficult for the SEC. So what I think Oklahoma has to do, absolutely has to do in order to host a regional, which is still out there. It's a realm of possibility. You either win the series by just 2-1 against Kentucky, and then you go on and you win 2-1 against Texas. Man, that's hard, but after this past weekend, that's not impossible. Texas has vulnerabilities, and it's in Norman. We need to be like rounding up all Sooner fans to recognize that this is a big time game that could be huge for postseason. Sorry, yeah. I mean, it could be huge. You've got to show up. You got to show out as Sooner fans. You do. But what I think has to happen, and it may not necessarily be this way. This is just the way that I'm viewing it, the way that I see it happening. The only way I see Oklahoma hosting, they need to bump themselves up a couple more rankings in order to be in that 1 seed to host a regional. Right now, they're a high 2